So hopefully at the end of this week you'll have gathered some information, learned a little bit of cooking strategies and experimented with a few more meals and so on. The thing to do now is to look at exactly what you're doing, look at the type of activity you're doing, and then review and tinker with your own particular fuel mix to optimize your performance. So the way to do this is to start tracking not just the foods that you're taking in, but also looking at your body composition. So there's a number of ways we like to get people to do this. There's bioimpedance scales. So these are scales that you stand on and put a little electric current through the body, and basically fat resists differently to lean tissue. And these will estimate a body fat percentage. Some of the more fancy ones will give you a body water, a metabolic age. Some of them can estimate your lean mass on one side to the other, so they're quite useful if you've got a left-right imbalance in terms of strength, or if you're coming back from injury. So quite handy. The downfall of the bioimpedance is they are hydration sensitive. So if you're dehydrated, they tend to measure your body fats much higher. And if you do things like exercise, then and you get lots of blood into the muscles, then it can measure your body fats much lower. So it's the rule on measuring body comp is find a method you're happy with, make sure you use that method consistently, and make sure that you control for the time of the day, the type of exercise, try and control for your hydration. I quite like jumping on them first thing in the morning when you're potentially dehydrated, and then jumping on them again after intensive exercise session. So when you've lost some body water, but there might be more blood and so on in the muscle, and then just keep tracking those two numbers. Studies show that daily tracking of your weight and body comp makes it much more successful, likely outcome in terms of reaching your targets. And there's nothing more satisfying than jotting down your numbers and seeing a gradual decrease in your body fats if you're using something like the bioimpedance scales. When you're with clients, I think there's the calipers are a very powerful tool, because someone has to, they have to take their clothes off, so there's a sort of exposure element that can make it not fun for some potentially overweight people, so you might want to start them on the bioimpedance. But for other people, there's that exposure element which can keep them on track when you're not with them. And essentially you'll pinch a number of points of the body, and there's various equations. There's a 3-site equation, a 4-site, 7-site, and you can do up to 13 sites across the whole body. The more sites you do, obviously, there is a margin of error in how accurate people can be, and the more times you take someone's caliper measurements, the better you tend to get at it. I've actually moved to a system now where I'll get clients to buy a little pair of those plastic calipers and just measure their abdominal body fat, and I've given them a little 5mm scale. So each 5mm you can squeeze around your belly counts as one belly. So basically, if you squeeze 30mm, you've got 6 bellies. That's not so good. If you squeeze 15mm, that's 3 bellies. That's quite good. If you just squeeze 5mm, that's very good. That would be a very elite level of body fat. And some people say that the millimeters on your belly body fat equate quite directly to your overall body fat percentage. So if you squeeze 5mm, you'll be quite close to 5%. If you squeeze 10, you'll be close to 10%. And actually, over the years, there is some correlation there. Then you've got circumferences. So you measure the largest parts of the legs, calves, upper arm, forearm. You can do chest, neck, and so on. And the best way is to use a combination of those 3 different strategies. The reason this is really important is that ideally you do that every week, but certainly not leave more than 2 weeks before those detailed measurements, because what you learn from that is whatever your fuel mix has been, you will learn the outcome in terms of your lean mass improvements, your loss of body fat, And then you can look back in your training diary and you can look at performance parameters, whatever you might be measuring, whether it be aerobic, anaerobic, strength, time to exhaustion, all those different types of parameters that you can measure around fitness. And then you can tinker with the fuel mix. So any tinkering up or down needs to not be too drastic. One really common theme I see is when people want to lose fat is they'll cut, they'll create a deficit of 1,000, maybe 1,500 calories, run that for 2 or 3 weeks, and all that ends up happening is people get overtrained, tired, and the fat burning machinery and the hormones just all down regulate, and it basically shuts things off. So the body adjusts much better to all types of change with very small incremental changes, which you continue for a period of 2 or 3 weeks and then change something else. Now that goes back to the way that we alter the food diary. So what you don't want to do is give someone a revolution and get them to change, all 5 or 6 meals in a day. What you're best off doing is starting off tweaking breakfast, getting a much more healthy start to the day, run that for 7 to 10 days, then look at snacks, lunches, and then finally the evening meals, keeping a good variety in the evening meals, but perhaps giving people more finite choices during the day, because the more choice you have, the more difficult it is to make a decision. So there we have it. So it's looking through the 4-day food diary, tracking your body composition, making adjustments to your macronutrients based on your body composition and performance targets, which we'll be going into over the next couple of months, making those changes incremental and not jumping up too high. To give you an example, you wouldn't want to make a change of much more than 500 calories. That would be quite a big change to the total daily intake. Somewhere between 350 and 500 calories is normally about right. And by doing so, then you avoid the pitfalls of crash dieting, or also if you're bulking up to gain muscle, you avoid the pitfall of getting big, bulky, but just laying down lots of fat alongside the muscle that you're gaining.